Good heavens. And some of y'all are like, what is he wearing? Are they? Listen, here's what's up. Y'all overdressed this morning, okay? I don't know about you, but who goes to a birthday party dressed like you're going to church, okay? So, no, we have the joy of baptizing some folks this morning. Really is a treat. Something just kind of shifts in me. I go from sort of just preaching God's word to like party mode when I get in that water. It's a weird thing. You'll see it. I just have fun. I believe that it's something to truly be celebrated. I believe that it is a celebration, the acknowledgement that Jesus has done the work and that is the recognition of a life surrendered to Him. How would we not celebrate that? Listen, whatever football game you were cheering for yesterday, you're now accountable to go bigger than that. Nobody watches football in this church. Okay, go Dogs. She said it, not me. I disagree. That's a lie from the pit. Man, we doing good this morning, though? Are we ready to celebrate? I do believe it's going to be a celebration, but can we spend some time in God's Word first? Okay. Nehemiah chapter 2 is where you're going to need to be this morning. There's a Bible somewhere around you, maybe underneath the seat, maybe in your pocket, maybe on your lap. Grab that. Turn to Nehemiah chapter 2. This morning is a treat. We continue on in this story of just God using this man Nehemiah to move His plan forward. And this morning we're going to see Nehemiah really begin to lead this vision that God has given him to rebuild Jerusalem. And so this is kind of that part of the story. I'll recap here in just a few moments when we actually get to the text. In case you're just kind of like, I'm not really sure I know what's going on in Nehemiah. I didn't even really know that was a book in the Bible. But let me just kind of help get us kind of focused on it in this way. Just by saying, we, regardless of your backdrop, regardless of your position, like literally, or like your view on leadership, okay? We are all leading, I would argue that we are all leading someone, in some capacity, okay? Now, some of you would wrestle with that and go, that's not me. Like, I took the spiritual gifts test. It was on the bottom, so how could you even say that? And I go, those are fair questions. I think in context, it would be safe to say for some of us, that's not really my wheelhouse. That's not really my lane. But yet, for the sake of our conversation this morning, I really want it to land that we are all leading in some capacity. Like some of you would go, some of you think leadership and you think like top, you think, man, influencing all these people, leading teams of people, leading leaders, leading organizations, leading businesses. And maybe that's true for some of you. Others of you, it would be safe to say, maybe you're leading in your friend group. There's just a group of people that look up to you, that respect you. You're a role model for them. They follow you. You're leading in that capacity. For a lot of us, we would say, or I would say, we're leading in our families, right? If you're a mom or a dad, you're leading your children. Husbands are leading their wives. Wives are leading their husbands. I mean, we have this. We find ourselves in this leadership sort of capacity. And now we're sort of dethroning this idea that leadership is this kind of grand thing that only these people do. And then regardless, if you're like, there's none of that really for me, like I don't really lead in any of those ways, I would say, well, then you're definitely in the battle of leading the most difficult person on the planet that there is to lead, which is you, me, right? Like, I feel like sometimes on a good day, I do a half better job leading other people than I do leading myself. Have you seen me? Like Aaron Abrija he's stubborn, he's a wreck, he's a mess. Like he's all over the place. You tried leading that guy. And yet at the same time, we just go like, no, all of a sudden, as we come to mature, there's this thing that comes, and we need to take some of those leadership principles that we kind of see in other places, and we go, no, I need to take some of these steps. I need to adopt some of these things and place some of these things in my own life. And so at the end of the day, we're all leading in some capacity. Now, there's tons of resources out there for leaders, right? I don't even, it's just exhausting nowadays to go to the Amazons and just type in leadership. Right? You're just going, and it'll be like 987 million results. And you're just like, what do I even do with this? And here's a book on, 21 leadership principles from this guy, and like how to ruin your leadership, how to be the best leader in the world from the guy who is the best leader in the world. Wait, that sounds weird. Like, how do you, and then we're just overwhelmed with all these things. There's books, there's conferences, there's coaches and mentors, and all of that whole realm is just saturated. But listen, I don't know if you're like me, but I learned through experience. So you could be like, hey, Aaron, here's the book on the 21 principles of how to sharpen your leadership. And I will remember the first one because then I wouldn't have read the rest. That's just me. I'm going to be the best at whatever the first chapter is in any book. Anybody else? You know what I'm saying? No, but I just learned through experience. I'm kind of like when we're playing a board game, I'm like, don't sit there and read the instructions. Like, let's play the thing. Anybody else? I'm going to put those daggum things away. Lord knows you're going to make half of them up anyways. Right? Here's just sort of a low-hanging example from my life. I got kind of thrown into construction right out of high school. It was just kind of made sense. And I'm doing construction, and boss was like, hey, why don't you grab that trailer over there and take that load of rocks over to that job site? And I was like, you got it. So I go over there and I grab the trailer and I hitch up the trailer, and then I drive over to the job site, get to the job site, and the foreman's like, hey, why don't you just take it right over there, park it, we don't need it quite yet. And I was like, sure, no problem. So I'll just drive it on up this hill right here, and I'll unhitch it here. So I park it and I go to the back and I undo the chains first, the little safety chains, to make sure a trailer full of rocks wouldn't roll away if some moron came by and just decided to do the whole process backwards on a hill. And I start cranking that thing. Like, this is going. Guys, I'm going to be down there in a minute. And cranking this trailer up full of rocks. I mean, the thing's heavy. Tires are squishing. And I'm just cranking that thing. It's real tight. And I was like, what in the world's wrong with this thing? So I start kicking it. It'll give. And I start kicking it, and then I crank it real hard, and that thing pops up. Man, that bed goes all the way to the back, and that trailer starts rolling down the hill towards the house. And there was a guy on a Bobcat. Some of y'all don't know what I mean by that. It's not in Nat Geo, it's a tractor. There was a guy on a Bobcat, and he literally saw the thing coming, and my saving grace was that he pulled that thing back, and he pointed that bucket right at that trailer and held on for dear life. Sometimes you learn through your mistakes. That one just happened to be a $10,000 mistake. But I'll tell you what, a lot of trailers and 20 years later, you know who doesn't ever unhook a trailer in the wrong way? Ever? Yeah, that's called just learning through the school of hard knocks right there. Story of my life, man. You just kind of throw me in, and I will be a sponge for learning, but it might cost us all just a little bit along the way. And then the fair question is, well, and then what are we, if we're all leading, and we're in this setting here, what is it that we are learning to lead? And I would just say this. When we lead something, we're leading a vision for something to be better. Like if we're going to put something into motion, if we're going to influence, if we're going to look to people to come alongside of it, it's because we believe that we carry inside of us. I mean, on most grassroots level, I believe in my group of friends. I believe in my family. And I just want to lead because I just have a vision for something that's healthy and God-honoring and gospel-centered. And so I'm going to lead that vision in those arenas. I'm going to come alongside my church because I believe that we have a vision for something that is better, that is gospel-centered, that is God-honoring, that moves us toward the plan that we just believe that God has for us. We're going to lead because we believe that there's a vision for something that could be better, that we believe we're called to influence. And I referenced this a couple weeks ago, I think when we were first getting started, but it was Andy Stanley. Forgive me, I don't have that quote on the screen, but it was Andy Stanley who said, man, vision is formed in the soul of the man or the woman consumed, that word's come up a lot in this series, consumed with the tension between what is and what could be, right? He also said it the other way, someone who is dissatisfied with the status quo. Vision is going to form. It's going to begin to take shape. Vision is always formed in a little bit of a restlessness. It's always born out of a little bit of a burden for something, and then that burden consumes you, and all you see is what is, but you've got a dream and a picture of what could be. And then God, in His unique ways, regardless of your wiring, regardless of your personality, man, if He's consumed you, if He's burdened you with that tension, He's going to call you in and cause you to move that thing forward for His purposes. And so regardless of our leadership position or our preparedness as Christians, we need to learn how to lead the vision that God has given us for His plan and His purpose. I just believe that God has called the church to lead the vision that He's given us for His purposes. I believe in every way that vision that He's given us is to lead disciple-making movements, to make disciples who make disciples who make disciples, and do it again when they plant churches to make disciples who are going to make more disciples. And we just see that all over the place with what God has left the church to do. And fortunately, we've got a great example in a guy like Nehemiah when it comes to this conversation. And so, as we get into this and we see Nehemiah learn how to lead the vision for carrying out the plan that God gave for him. And so we're going to be in Nehemiah chapter 2, the second part of that chapter, verses 9 through 20. But as I promised you, let me just give you just a micro summary on what has led up to this point, okay? Nehemiah is the cupbearer to the king. He samples the king's wine. We talked about this, like not a bad gig, right? And to make sure that it's not poisonous and that the king lives. And so it was just a kind of a highly respectable position. He was a Hebrew servant to a Persian king in the city of Susa, which was the capital of Persia, 800 miles away from Jerusalem. But then Nehemiah's brother and some of his buddies go to Jerusalem to check things out, just to see what's going on back at home, and comes back and gives Nehemiah the report that the city walls are broken down, that the city is in ruins, and that nobody is now worshiping in its temple. The Bible says that Nehemiah wept for days. Nehemiah wept for days. It said he fasted and he mourned, and that would lead him to this posture of prayer. He would go to prayer in the second part of chapter 1, and he would just plead with God. God, would you just do something? I know what you do. I know what you're capable of. Like, remember your faithfulness. Remember your promises. Man, cause me to see these things. Use me. I'll do it. God, just put me in. I'm not expecting you to just do it I'll go. Use me. Give me the strength. Give me the success. Grant me your mercy and your favor. I will go to Jerusalem and rebuild its walls. I dare you to call me to do it. And then Nehemiah stands before the king. But this is 4 or 5 months later, and the king says, man, you look sad. Nehemiah goes, yeah, how could I not be? My city's in ruins. King goes, what do you need? He says, man, I want you to send me to the city. Let me rebuild the city. And Nehemiah was terrified. This was very improbable. We talked about that last week, the improbable plan that Nehemiah had. It was improbable because this was a king who just years earlier mandated that Jerusalem doesn't get to be rebuilt. He's for the destruction of it. Not only that, he doesn't worship the God that Nehemiah worships, and he's actually against him. And so Nehemiah goes and goes, I want you to send me to the city that you hate so that we can rebuild and worship the God that you don't love. What? And the king goes, off you go. Go and do it. Have fun. And Nehemiah's like, one more thing. I need you to pay for the whole thing. I'm going to need some trees from your private garden. And some letters for safe passage, and so that I can have access to anything that I want while I'm there. And by the way, I'll be back to work in 12 years. Right? So then the king says, here you go. And off Nehemiah goes to Jerusalem. We pick it up in chapter 2, verse 9. And what we're going to look at is really these 4 things, real simple this morning. I'm going to move quick. Really these 4 things that we see from the learnings of Nehemiah in leadership. I'll give you the first one. And it's that when you lead a vision, the critics come quickly. The critics will flock to that vision. Verse 9. Then I came to the governors of the province beyond the river. It's kind of a place, I would assume, beyond the river. I don't know much more than that. And gave them the king's letters. Now the king had sent with me officers of the army and horsemen. But when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite servant heard this, it displeased them greatly that someone had come to seek the welfare of the people of Israel. Right? So here's Nehemiah, gets his letters, off to get his trees. He's on his way to Jerusalem, not even in Jerusalem yet, and the critics stop him. What, you want to do what? Why would you want to go and rebuild a temple that no king wants to rebuild? Why would you waste your time? That's dangerous. You know there's going to be opposition, right? And poor Nehemiah, right? Like he's got a prayer and a plan, and off he goes, and he's not even there yet. And meets some guys on the road handing his letters from the king. And it displeased them greatly that someone had come to seek the welfare of the people of Israel. And here's what we can learn from this. Not just Nehemiah, but we see this play out time and time and time and time again. That when you add vision and you add leadership and some people who are going to go after that vision to make an impact for a thing, there will always be critics. And man, do they come quick. Man, do they come quick. I'll tell you this story from my own. I'll talk more about this next week because the whole conversation next Sunday is about opposition. And there's a difference between criticism and opposition, I think. Criticism is somebody who's just trying to suck the life out of you a little bit. The opposition is the thing that wants to get in the way of the entire thing and not make it happen. So one wants to really just kind of discourage you, kind of give you a bad day, kind of make you wake up the next morning wondering if you want to keep doing. The other one is an obstacle that we have to figure out what to do and how to get through in a big way. But when it comes to criticism, I've got some criticism before we moved here to start this church. It was probably 4 to 6 months maybe. I don't remember. It was in early 2016, probably January, February 2016. And I got asked to come. We were still living in Nashville, Tennessee, in that area, and we hadn't moved here yet. We were gearing up to move here in about May of that year. So y'all count 4-year birthday. It's more like 5.5 if you're doing my math. But nonetheless, we were at this conference, got asked to speak kind of in a breakout session at an event, and had a small little group of people come to my breakout session, and it was great. And then a guy who was in that comes up to me afterwards and just kind of introduced himself. He's not in Mount Pleasant anymore. Introduced himself as a guy who used to be a pastor in Mount Pleasant way back, who knows when. And he just said, "Hey, so why Mount Pleasant?" I just said, "Man, we just believe that we need the gospel everywhere. We just need it." Well, there's lots of churches there, right? Yeah, there's lots of churches. So then why would you go there? Man, I just believe that God's called us to the city that we love and that we want to see a movement of the gospel. And I just believe that looks different, man. Like there's the tension for me. There's the friction for me. I'm dissatisfied with the status quo. And if you want to talk to me about it, we can talk about it. But there's just something there that says, man, God's got more for the church here, y'all. Just has more. So back to the story, he just goes, I just don't know why you'd go there. Mount Pleasant's where church plants go to die. Okay. Thanks. I just don't know why you'd waste your time, resources, all the money you got to raise, everything you got to do. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And then he walks off. Just like Nehemiah, we weren't even in town yet. And I had a buddy with me. He's the type of buddy that if you saw him, you'd be like, that's the type of buddy that you want protecting you. And he's the one that I was usually at the time just trying to pull back. I was usually trying to rein him in and trying to keep him out of jail. But this is the one moment he was trying to keep me out of jail. Like, I'll tell you what, I just wasn't as in tune with grace then as I was, and as I just hope that I am now. Like, there's a part of me want to go out to the trunk, get my grenade launcher, stick it between his teeth, and hit the go button. You know what I'm saying? Can I say that? Is that off limits? I got a wicked little heart too that needs Jesus, you guys, just so you know. We're all in good company, amen? But I didn't, and then the next day, though, I saw him at the coffee bar, and my boy wasn't with me. So I go walking up to him. Hey, man. Hey, Mount Pleasant, right? Yeah, man. Hey, you probably don't care, but that was really rude. And it was really offensive, and I just want to know why you said that. Well, man, I just don't know a lot of pastors like you who would want to go and suck off the tailpipe of a lot of other churches who are just doing a fine job already. I went out to the trunk. It displeased them greatly that someone had come to seek the welfare of the people of Israel. And here's what I've come to learn about critics. They're probably some of the most helpful ways that we learn. So on one hand, I want to say, man, we listen and we learn. We value the feedback that we get, regardless of how bad it stings. We tracking? And some of you are like, no, man, you smoke that dude in the jaw. No, we don't. Listen, we don't. We say, hey, man, someone goes, hey, I got some feedback for you. I'd love to hear that. I just know too many people that are like, what? No, you don't. You keep that to yourself. That's crazy, right? And but we receive that feedback and we listen to that. And I've just learned enough now since that occasion to go, man, that's actually really helpful for me. And I welcome that and I need that. I hope people would do that in a loving way, in a nurturing way that is for me, that is for the church. Not against it. That's just a different game of angry that we're playing, and that's not the game I like to play. I just want to say, yes, I acknowledge what you have for me, and I want to hear it and receive it. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to promise to really sort through that and take it to some of the people that know me and love me and care for me, some of the men and women in my life, and I'm going to process that with them, and I'll come back to you with kind of where God leads me on that. That's the posture that we take, y'all. That is our posture. And so we do, man. We go back and I go to these people and say, hey, man, I got some feedback. It was kind of rough, kind of landed on me in a not so good way. And some people will be like, yeah, Aaron, that's just not you. You don't have to, let that one bounce. It's going to be okay. But then I've gone to some mentors who have said, wait, that guy said, what about you? Oh, well, Aaron, sit down for a second. We wanted to kind of talk to you about this. Man, we see that in you too. And it stings, but you just go, would I not have the opportunity to learn to continue to grow if I wasn't gifted that criticism? You hear me? So we get so quick to push those things away like we're perfect. Nobody's got to say anything. And I'm going, man, what if that critic is a gift? And so we listen to him. And yet at the same time, hear me. And at the same time, the one with a critical spirit, not the one with criticism, but the one with a critical spirit to me is akin to somebody who's blowing the whistle and screaming through the megaphone at a football game from the nosebleed section, telling the coach how to call his plays. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Listen, here's who gets to be a helpful critic. Come down from the nosebleed section, get on the field with me, put some pads on, get tossed around and bloodied up a little bit, and then we can talk. So it's these helpful forms of how we engage people with our feedback and our criticism. But here's the point. When there is vision and there is someone who's going, man, I'm going to lead this vision. I'm talking, it could be in your friends. It could be in your home. Good heavens, it could be in your home. It could be on any scale imaginable. It could just be in that little game you play in your own heart that just goes, I don't know what to do with me. I've played that game a lot, y'all. I'll say this about it, and then I'll move on to the next point. I just sense that the lack of Christian leadership that I just kind of see in and around the church in general in our time, I don't think is as much a lack of vision as it is a result of our fear of the critics. Right? The fear of the critic that just causes us to go, man, but what are they going to think? What are they going to say? Man, what might they do? And here, let me just be completely transparent with you. I probably ask those same things of my critics probably every other day because there's this part of me that just wants to please people. There's this part of me that wants to just do the right thing. I don't always know what's the right thing. I don't always know who's happy and who's not. If I'm not careful, I just become this codependent, like, man, y'all just do what you want with me. You probably just get whatever you want from me. I just want to love well. But I go, but there's that tension for me in what it looks like to listen to the critic and to press forward to the vision that God has given us for His plan and His purpose. And just for the confidence that we aren't alone in this, can you read through the Bible and tell me if there's anyone who had more critics than Jesus? Like, for real. Like, just read one chapter in the Gospels and tell me who has the most critics. Dude wins for sure. Everywhere he went, there was a critic. There was somebody attacking him, what he said, his disciples, his plan, his vision, constantly under fire. But what did he do? He just believed that there was a God who called him to that vision and who put him in that tension, and he saw it through to its completion. Y'all listen, when I say completion, I mean completion. And so we are in good company. If we're going to lead a vision on any scale in our life, we have to know and not be surprised that the critics are right around the corner. We good? I should keep going. Number 2, rest is a requirement. Rest is a requirement. Verse 11, he says, so I went to Jerusalem. Right? He leaves the critics. He says, so I went to Jerusalem and was there 3 days. And all we know is that he was there for 3 days before it says he did anything. Now, I don't like to speculate a lot, but I'm just going to believe, I peacefully believe that here's this little window where this thing that is true to the heart and character of God called rest comes into play for Nehemiah as he gets ready to go into this endeavor that he knew was absolutely going to suck the life out of him and wear him out and wring him out. And so he goes to Jerusalem, gets there, and then takes a 3-day vacation. Like everybody knows, like he knows, he's like, I've got this work to do. It's tremendous. It's huge. It's overwhelming. It's sort of this improbable thing that I don't even know how it's ultimately going to play out. And what does he do? Man, he goes and checks out the restaurants, probably makes some friends. I don't know, where do you buy bricks in this town? Maybe he just went and worshiped. Maybe he prayed. We don't really know. But I just see this thing of him doing this thing called rest. And it's an interesting thing to talk about, and man, we'd get in some real trouble if we did a whole series on rest and care for ourselves and recovery and what it looks like to be healthy in that regard. Because what do we all know? Like, we're in a culture that doesn't really value rest. We say we want to, but do we? No, man, it's go, 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 go. And listen, and if you got a vision and a plan, the expectation is that you go even harder. You don't get a rest. You don't get a break. Man, we got stuff to do. And we got to hustle, and we got to go until this thing's done. You want to take a vacation? No, man, you turn those vacation days in at the end of the year, which statistically is what most Americans will do at the end of every year. I'm just going to tell you right now, you can give them to me. Don't waste those things. Call me up. I will gladly go on your vacation without you. More pastors in 2020 and 2021 called it quits than any other time that we know of. Because it was and is an exhausting season to lead a church and to be in ministry. And the things that have happened and are happening in that time frame were just a recipe that most pastors just aren't and weren't prepared for. Just difficult things. None of us knew who to go to for pandemic training. None of us knew who to go to for political unrest. No, no one knew in that moment, what do we do with all of this division that's happening in our time? What do we do with all of the sickness and the health things? And what do we do with all of the opinions and all of the things that would just divide and destroy the body of Christ? We kind of go, man, I don't know if I signed up for that. I don't know if I signed up for that. Man, that's hard. That stuff's hard work, right? That's what we do. That's what we say. But we got to rest if we're going to do the work that God has for us, because something tells me it might only be easy until we step into the things that God actually has for us. And then when we do, and we're actually in the thick of it, and we're in the midst of it, y'all, that's when we're going to face some heat, and God's going to be like, take a nap, bro. And I'm going to be like, no. We got these things to do. We got these things to do. Like, we made it to our 4-year birthday. We want to make it to our 5th birthday. Jesus, come on. He's going, no, you need to stop. I'm going, but you don't see, are you seeing what's happening? Like, you would say this is good, right? He's going, no, stop. Because if you don't stop and if you don't rest, you're going to burn out, and this won't last long, and you won't be here for much longer. I'm going, I don't want to end up like some of my friends who didn't rest and they're getting burned out. If we're going to lead hard towards a kingdom-minded vision, then we have to learn when it's critical to rest and how to rest for the work that is ahead. In case everybody's wondering what's going on, somebody pulled the fire alarm over there. It's a party in Kids World. It'll go off soon after the fire department shows up and finds us. Number 3, planning gives vision a voice. Planning gives vision a voice. He says, then I arose in the night, I and a few men with me, and I told no one what my God had put into my heart to do for Jerusalem. There was no animal with me but the one on which I rode. I went out by night by the valley gate to the Dragon's Spring and to the Dung Gate. Y'all don't call your gate that. And I inspected the walls of Jerusalem that were broken down and its gates that had been destroyed by fire. Then I went on to the fountain gate and to the king's pool, but there was no room for the animal that was under me to pass. Then I went up in the night by the valley and inspected the wall. And I turned back and entered by the valley gates, and so I returned. Verse 16. And the officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing, and I had not yet told the Jews, the priests, the nobles, and the officials, and the rest who were to do the work. So Nehemiah gets there, and he doesn't just roll into town and go, hey, y'all, I'm here to fix everything. Y'all circle up, we're going to do this. I got the vision. He didn't do that. And man, I'm telling you, if anyone had some room to just show up and be like, yo, God said, I think it was Nehemiah. But he comes in, right? And we talked about this last week. And he plans, and he plans, and there's something to be celebrated in that. He didn't just plan without a prayer, and he didn't just pray without a plan. These two come together. We pray asking God to reveal those things to us. Remember, it's that Proverbs 16 piece that we looked at last week, and we just where we said, man plans his ways, but the Lord directs his steps. We're going to have a plan, but God's going to decide which way we go with that. And that just gives me a great deal of hope. That gives me a lot of confidence. He begins by just kind of rolling through town, doesn't tell everybody what he's doing. Man, he grabs a donkey. He starts riding around from gate to gate to gate, inspecting the different pieces that were to be rebuilt. Man, this one's broken down. We're probably going to need this much for that. Man, I don't know. What neighborhood's that one in? Okay, who's over there that can really come together to rebuild that one? How do we get these things over here? Man, I just need to see what's happening before I even tell anybody about anything. I just need to get a view on what's happening. Like there's planning going on that nobody knows about. And I think sometimes we get a little, this just kind of throws us off sometimes as a people, doesn't it? We like to know everything that's happening. I think our modern media has kind of just caused us to feel like we're entitled to know everything that's happening before it happens. well, no, I deserve to know. You tell me, you show me. And if you don't, right, that's sort of this mindset that we have when it comes to news and when it comes to operations. And that's just so backwards. I think that there's wisdom. I've learned that there's wisdom in just holding off on revealing all of the plans to everyone, so that for a time we could really kind of nurture what God might be doing through that thing, right? I'll say it like this, last Sunday I let you in on some things that I was going, here's some stuff we're dealing with, kind of just thinking through the building, thinking through different ways that we're trying to figure some things out. There's this place, and really kind of going, square footage and dollars in this town just aren't friends. And I don't know what to do with that, and that was just kind of where we were and what was going on really in that picture, that I was like, man, I'll let you in on this. But there's this conversation back here. Like Jared and I will sit down and we'll grab a cigar and we'll be like, man, let's just dream. Let's just consider. And let's just say, man, God, we know that you've got this plan. We know that you've given this vision. Like, what is it that you're going to do? And there's these things that we're nurturing and that we're considering and that we're sorting through and that we're strategizing and that we're planning for, that nobody in this church even knows about. And see, right now, some of y'all being like, I know the pastor. I'm gonna email him. I bet I could get it through his wife. I bet I could, right? And I'm just going, no, I just get this picture that Nehemiah just went out in the middle of the night, got on his donkey, and me and Jared, if you see us riding around at midnight on donkeys, that's what we're doing, okay? We're trying to make some plans. Before Nehemiah cast any vision, which he's going to do next, he prepared, he made a plan, and he set the course. Listen, you can't go to war with no armor, no weapon, no training, and no plan and think you're going to scare the enemy. We don't get to do it. And the fourth and final thing that I think we just learned this morning from Nehemiah's leadership is that vision compels action. Vision compels action. He says in 17, this is after he kind of gets back from his midnight ride. He says, then I said to them, now he speaks up. I don't really know who the audience is, but he speaks up to them. He says, you see the trouble we are in, how Jerusalem lies in ruins with its gates burned. Come, let us build the wall of Jerusalem that we may no longer suffer derision. And so he invites them into that tension that has been his. I mean, you guys see the way things are. This isn't the way that we want it to be. This isn't working. This isn't good. This isn't the fullness of what God has called us to. We just believe there's more. Y'all listen, if we come together and we rebuild this wall and we reclaim this city as a city that is going to worship the God who rescues and saves us, man, I believe that we will taste the fullness of what God has for us. That's what he's doing. He's casting that vision. He's going, I can't just walk in here with a spreadsheet and start pointing fingers. And I told them of the hand of my God that had been upon me for good, and also of the words that the king had spoken to me. And then look what they said. And they said, I just picture them getting all giddy. Let us rise up and build then, right? So they strengthened their hands for the good work. And so after facing his critics and taking a vacation and making a plan, Nehemiah casts a compelling vision, right? He invites them into that space, that disruption, that dissatisfaction of the status quo that for the last 140 years had been a temple that sat empty. So that ain't going to cut it. That ain't going to cut it. And what's ironic to me is that the temple was already rebuilt in Jerusalem, but the walls were broken down. A city with the temple to worship the God of heaven, and it sat empty. And you tell me we don't need the gospel in any city that we can possibly reach in our time? Is that not akin to so many of our churches that sit empty or sleepy or lifeless? I'm not saying they all do, but I'm just saying there's a couple. Amen. And that's, could we not be called to more than that? Nehemiah wasn't going to rebuild the temple. He was going to rebuild the walls, protect the city, and then he would, as we'll see in later chapters, rebuild the people to be worshipers of their God. He casts a vision. And he says, y'all, we've got something better. There's something better for us. There's more out there. You know, I'm just grateful, and I'm leaning on this. Like, this isn't, I've said this before. I might just go and repeat here for a second, depending on how long you've been here. But this isn't just like a fun hobby for us. Like, we just believe that God has called us to the city to see something happen that is far beyond the status quo, for the possible reach that the gospel can actually have as it implicates lives. Don't tell me that this city's already reached for the gospel. I used to drive Uber here, y'all, at night on weekends. Y'all, I'm going to tell you this. We got some work to do still. I know some of you don't go out past 7 for that reason, but I'm telling you, it's out there. It's out there. And when I look around at what we would call a churched city, where there's no shortage of steeples, our goal is to not be the one that's divided like that first critic suggested before I even got here. It's not to compete with those. It's to come around every single one of those churches that is kingdom-minded, gospel-centered, and wants the same vision for our city, and that we would come around the love story of Jesus, make disciples who plant churches, that we would do it together for God's glory to reach the city. We're a church with a vision to do that. And I say it all the time, but it is to see all people know, live, and tell the love story of Jesus. And we will do it by making disciples who make disciples, who make disciples, who make disciples. You tell them to stop, who make disciples, who make disciples. Thank you. We got to be consumed with attention. We've got to be consumed with attention, y'all. We've got to be dissatisfied with the status quo. And then here's how you know Nehemiah cast a compelling vision. And here's how you know when you're part of a compelling vision, the critics come back for more. They're like, oh, so you're actually going to go through with it. Well, we're just going to kind of stay in your face a little bit. How's this going to feel? Maybe we can just probably get you to stop. And so, verse 19, but when Sanballat the Horonite, I feel kind of bad saying that, and Tobiah the Ammonite servant and Geshem the Arab heard of it, they jeered at us and despised us and said, what is this thing that you are doing? Are you rebelling against the king? So here your 3 boys come back for more, right? Chase them on into Jerusalem, and here they come, and we're going to criticize, we're going to ridicule, and we're just going to kind of shame you for this thing that you're doing that you think is good. And we're going to see these guys continue to move from criticism to opposition as we get into it next week. But look at how he ends this journal entry in verse 20. He says, then I replied to them, the God of heaven will make us prosper, and we his servants will arise and build, but you have no portion or right or claim in Jerusalem. Gosh, that's good. Gosh, that's good. Our God will bring us to action. Look, if you're looking at me, Nehemiah is saying, if you're looking at me thinking you're gonna hurt me or send me away or hurt my feelings, or it ain't me doing the work here, y'all. He's going, I've just been sent, compelled, consumed, called to this vision that God has given me to fulfill a part of his plan for his purposes. You're going to have to take that up with him, y'all. He's going to do it. He can bring us to action. He will make it happen. The God of heaven will make us prosper. And we're just his servants. We're just his servants, and we're going to arise and build. And listen, like, no offense really, but you have no portion in this city. Come on. Like, can we take that up? Can we take that up and pursue the gospel saturating this city? Can we? Man, a vision without action is nothing more than a good idea, somebody once told me. A vision without action is nothing more than a good idea. And listen, y'all, I believe that we are chasing more than just a good idea. I believe we are chasing a calling that God has placed on us as a church. And church, if we're going to do that, we got to get up and we got to get going, because he's called us to a significant place in his plan. And if we fast forward, we'll see that in his plan, he sends Nehemiah to rebuild the walls in Jerusalem. He fast forwards his plan, and in the same plan, he sends Jesus to be the eternal sacrifice for our sins, that we could spend eternity with him in heaven. Fast forward in his plan, he wasn't done with Jesus. He sends the Spirit-filled church and his Spirit-filled people in that Jesus-loving church, that we would continue on, take up that vision, move that vision forward to carry out God's plan for the kingdom, which has never changed a single day in history. It's that he would reclaim and rebuild and restore a people who love Jesus for his glory. And we get to be a part of that plan today. And that absolutely lights me up. Anybody else? So newsflash, we're not just playing church on Sunday, y'all. We get to do this. We get to do this. And listen, we're going to face opposition, and we're going to talk about that next week. But listen, a church that isn't pursuing a gospel-centered, kingdom-minded vision will never face opposition. And I'm going to tell you some stories that we've faced opposition. We've had more than critics. We've had things stand in front of this church and attempt to not see it happen and go forward. And all I can say is, yeah, I got a sturdy nap at the end of that day, and it just confirmed even more that God's called us in the right direction. Y'all, what a time to be a part of the bride of Christ. What a time, what an opportunity that we have to take up these gifts that he's given us and to collectively, as the body, lead together in this direction of making disciples that he's clearly called us to fulfill his plan and purpose. I can't wait for tomorrow. I don't even know what's on my schedule tomorrow. It's just another day in the life of what God's doing in our church and in our community, and it's going to be absolutely incredible. Anybody else pumped for tomorrow? Anybody else pumped for tomorrow? Would you stand with me? Man, some of y'all are probably going to leave this church. And that's not a wishful thing for me.